Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunflower Cottage Crochet. This is Sarah and this is the retake video for the raised diagonal square. So I wanted to remake this video because there was a lot of background noise and competition for my voice to be heard. So sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and leave the original up though in case there's something important in that I forget to say in this video. So you can refer to both. With that in mind, this is how your square should end up looking. These are just front post double crochets going upward in a diagonal motion, hence the name of it. And it is a multiple of 10 plus 1 for the chain, and if you're doing foundation single crochets, then it's just multiples of 10. And this is also a 10 row repeat, but it doesn't start until row 4. So to get you started, I want to go ahead and grab my yarn and hook. You will need a medium weight yarn and a 5mm hook to begin. And I have completed my first 2 rows plus my chain up. So what I'm going to tell you now is to chain 31 or foundation single crochet 30, and then work your first row of single crochets, and then row 2 is also single crochets. So I will meet you back here for row 3. So go ahead and pause the video and get yourself situated for row 3 by doing chain 31 single crochet in the second chain from the hook and across, and then chain 1, turn, and single crochet in each stitch across. If you're doing the foundation single crochet row, just do 30 single crochets, foundation single crochets, chain 1, turn, and then single crochet in each stitch across. We're going to work the pattern as it is written. I gave you the multiple in case you're using a thinner yarn or you need to make it bigger or smaller, depending on the hook size and yarn that you're using. So as you can see with my handy dandy little indicators, the idea I got from Tina, shout out to her, this is row 3. So we've done our first 2 rows of single crocheting. And something else I want to make sure that you know too is that you're going to need to work every even numbered row as a single crochet row. I will constantly remind you of that, but for now, just know 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 is going to be single crocheting. So for row 3, we're going to chain up 1 and turn, and then we're going to single crochet in the first single crochet, and then it says to single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now this is our repeat. The start of our repeat was the first 4 stitches for the row, okay? And then it says to front post around the next single crochet. So, and that's from row 1. We're skipping over the even numbered rows. We're always going to be working around the odd numbered rows. So I am going to come down here and find my single crochets from row 1. So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4, and the first 5 that we have technically worked over. So this, the 6th one, is going to be the first one that we work a front post double crochet around. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll work my front post double around that. And then I'm going to chain 1, skip the next single from row 1, and then put a front post double around the next one. Chain 1, skip the next single from row 1, and put a double front post double around the next one. And now we're all done doing front post double crochets for that repeat. And to finish the repeat, we need to single crochet in the next single crochet from row 2. And in order to make sure I know which one that is, I'm going to bend these down and count over 5 stitches, because it's 5 stitches are what make the post, chain, post, chain, post. So I'm going to count over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So So I know that that's going to be my single crochet that I work into, and I'm going to place 1 single crochet there, and that's the end of the repeat. 4 singles, post chain, post chain, post, single. That's the repeat for row 3. So we have enough stitches, we need to do it again, and you keep doing that repeat until you only have 9 left, and then there's a separate ending written up for the row. So the repeat starts out with 4 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, well, 1 in each of the next. So 3 and 4, okay, and then we're going to find the next single crochet to work around. And there's a couple of things I want to point out here. First, to find it, we're going to start where we ended this last post, and we're going to count up these stitches down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the 6th one. We're going to go ahead and put a front post double around. And before I go any further, instead of always having to bend my work forward and count the 5 skipped stitches behind, I can do that. It certainly is quick. Or I can use a stitch marker and just count over 5 before I get started. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm put in the 6th one, put my stitch marker in that one. So I know right away where my next stitches are going to be going. Okay, so to continue on with the repeat, we had started with our 4 single crochet. Sorry about the camera wobble. Our front post doubles, so then we're going to chain 1, skip 1, and put a front post double around the next single from row 1. Chain 1, skip 1, front post around this next single from row 1. And now we're all done making our front posts for that repeat. And then I'm going to remove my stitch marker and place a single crochet in it. And that finishes the repeat for row 3. And now we should only have 9 stitches left. So for the ending, it says to single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. And then it says to front post around the next single crochet. So I'm going to count over from where I worked my last post stitch here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know this is the one. And then we're going to chain 1, skip the next single, and then front post around this single from row 1. And then we're going to put a single crochet in each of the last 2 stitches, and that finishes out row 3. So we have part of a diagonal started, and then we have 2 other diagonals going. Your diagonals are going to run out of space. Eventually it's going to run off to the right side, and you'll start up and you'll continue on with this one, and it will end up going to the edge. So you'll see it as you go along. So go ahead and finish up your row if you haven't, and then work row 4, which is to single crochet across. But there's one thing I want to show you about single crocheting back across. For these even rows, you'll need to place either in or around the chain space a single crochet. Don't skip those. So here we are, I've worked over to the first chain space. I'm just going to put one around it. You can put one in it if you want to. It's really up to you. Around it's faster for me, so that's what I'm going to do. So then I'm just going to continue working my single crochets all down the row, placing one around the chain space as I go along. So go ahead and work up your row 4, and I will meet you back up here for row 5. I have my row 4 completed, and I am ready to start up row 5. Now, The start of the 10 row repeat, if you don't recall what I said earlier, is row 4. So from row 4 to row 13 is your repeat rows for the whole pattern. So just keep that in mind as you're moving forward. So for row 5, we need to chain 1 and turn, which I've done, and then we're going to single crochet in the first single crochet. And then it says to single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And then it says to front post around the next single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and continue on with that. So one thing at a time here. So another cool thing I want to point out is that you can see quicker where your next single to work into is, instead of by coming from this side here, but coming from this post stitch, because we are going to be working around it. That means you're going to skip 1 before it, and then you're going to be working around the next single there. So that's where we're going to place our first front post stitch, and that's going over a single crochet from row 3. And then we're going to chain 1, skip that single, and front post around the next front post. Whoops. And then we're going to chain 1 and front post around this next front post. Okay. So one thing I do want to show you really quick is that in this pattern, there's always going to be 3s, okay? So you're always leaving 1 behind as you're moving forward. So we have 4 post stitches here, but we're going to leave this one behind, so it's going to remain unworked, okay? So because I didn't use a stitch marker, I'm just going to bend this forward and count the 5 skipped stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know I'm going to be working into this one, and the pattern repeat ends with single crocheting in each of the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. So the repeat for row 5 is single crochet in 2 stitches, then post, chain, post, chain, post, and then single crochet in 3 stitches. So that's 5 single crochets and 5 of your posting and chaining, which makes that multiple of 10. All right, so to move on, we're going to continue our repeat, which starts again with the 2 single crochets. So 1 in each of the next 2. 1, 2. And then we're going to front post around the next single from row 3. And again, if you couldn't find that right off, look for this post, skip that single, and work around this next one. So after you've worked your post, chain 1, skip the next single, and front post around the front post. Chain 1, and then front post around this front post. And then we're done doing our posting. We're going to leave this stitch behind. So I'm going to turn over and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I know I'm working 3 single crochet in each, 1 in each of the next 3. Okay. So that's the end of the repeating for this row. Now we're working the ending because we have 9 stitches left. So to end out row 5, single crochet in each of the next 2, and then front post around the next single. After a while, it becomes quite easy to spot them. Chain 1, skip the next single, and then front post around the next front post. Whoops. Okay. Chain 1, front post around this front post. And then we're going to single crochet in each of the last 2 stitches. And that finishes up row 5. Now the reason that we didn't leave this one behind is because we didn't have a third one to leave behind. So we needed to continue our work to keep it in balance. We had to have our 3 this time. Okay, so now for row 6, you're just going to single crochet yourself back across, making sure to put one either in or around the chain spaces from row 5. So work your single crochet row, and I will meet you back here for row 7. I have completed my row 6 of just single crocheting across, and now we're going to start with row 7. So for row 7, we had to chain 1 and turn, and then you're going to single crochet in the first stitch. That's going to happen every row. And then you're immediately going to start working your front postings. So you're going to skip this first one and put a front post around this next single from row 5. And then chain 1, skip this next single, and then my yarn is getting caught here, sorry. And then you're going to front post around the next front post. Chain 1, and then front post around the next front post. And now we are leaving this one behind. And what you can start to see is these stair stepping happening. So we know now that next row we're going to be leaving this one behind, and this diagonal is going to disappear out of the side of the work. All right, so I'm going to count up my 5 skipped stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I know I'm going to be placing my next one here. The pattern says to single crochet in each of the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so the repeat for row 7 was to immediately start your posting and then end with 5 single crochets. So now we're going to work that repeat once more. So we're going to jump in and do our posting. So right here is the single I need from row 5. So we're going to front post around that next single, chain 1, skip the next single and front post around the next front post, chain 1, front post around the next front post. And we are leaving this one behind. So I'm going to count my 5 skipped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can see this one here is my next, and we're going to work 5 singles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now we should have 2 repeats completed and only 9 stitches left. So the ending for row 7 is to front post around the next single, which I can see is right here. Chain 1, skip next single, front post around the next front post, chain 1, and front post around the next front post. And we're leaving this one behind. And then we're going to single crochet in each of the last 4 stitches. So instead of counting the 5 missed, I'm going to come over and count the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know that this is the one I need to start my work in. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that is the end of row 7. So for row 8, again, we need to single crochet ourselves back across, and I will meet you back here for row 9. I have worked my row 8 single crochets across, and now we're ready to work row 9. So for row 9, we need to chain 1 and turn, which I have already done, and then we're going to single crochet in the first stitch as always, and then we're going to front post around the next front post. Sorry, my yarn is getting caught around everything. Okay, so I'm going to front post around this next front post, chain 1, skip this space, and then front post around the next front post. Now, we're all done with the posting because we have to leave one behind. And as I mentioned before, this one is going to just start disappearing into the side of the work. So I worked 3 stitches. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to work into this next single crochet with 5 singles, or start the 5 singles in this next single. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, but that is not the end of our repeat. So the repeat continues with front post around the next single. So that would be this one right here. And then we chain 1 and we skip the next single. So the end of the repeat ends with the chain up and the skipping of this single. So at this point, the repeat is to front post around this next front post, chain 1, skip 1, front post around the next, and then single crochet 5, and then front post, chain 1. That's the repeat. So we're going to work the repeat again, which was to start out again with a front post around the next front post. So we're going to do that. Chain 1, front post around the next front post. And now I'm going to bend this down and count my 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can see it's this one here that I need to work into, and I'm going to work 5 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but we're not done with our repeat yet. We need to front post around this next single and chain 1, and then that ends the repeat. And when we skip this single, these here, we will have our 9 stitches left. So the ending for this row is to front post around the next front post, and then chain 1, front post around the next front post, and we're leaving that one behind. And then it says to single crochet in each of the last 6 stitches. So I'm going to come over here and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can see it's right here that I'm going to go into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that will end row 9. So for row 10, again, we're going to single crochet ourselves back across, and then I will meet you back up here for row 11. I have gone ahead and worked my row 10 across, and now we're going to work up row 11. So we're almost done with our 10 row repeat for this. So for row 11, get my yarn together here. We're going to always single crochet in that first stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then it says to front post around the next front post. And then we're immediately going to single crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. So I only need to make sure I skip over 1 stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. To continue the repeat for this row, we need to front post around the next single crochet, which I can see right away is going to be right here. Because again, I'm looking for this post and the skip stitch the stitch I'll be skipping next to it. Then we chain 1, and then we're going to front post around the next front post. Chain 1, front post around the next front post. So the repeat technically ended around the second front post and then chain up after that. But I went ahead and finished out because I know what the pattern is always going to be looking like. So I'm going to, cannot talk today, guys, and I'm leaving the bloopers in, so laugh if you want. I'm going to count my 5 skipped. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can see this is where I'm going to put start my next single crocheting of 5. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the repeat was to front post around this, technically the third in the series post, okay? And then 5 single crochet, post chain, post chain. That was the repeat. And we went ahead and restarted our second repeat of post and then 5 singles. Now we're going to work the last part of this repeat, which is to front post around this next single, chain 1, skip that single, and front post around this front post, chain 1, skip 1. So that ends the second repeat, and we technically have our 9 stitches left. So we're going to continue the pattern in our ending. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We're going to front post around this next front post, and then immediately start working our 5 single crochets. So I'm going to count my skipped 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now, since we're losing a diagonal here, we're going to start a new one over here. So we're going to front post around the next single. So I want you to be able to see that this is your very last stitch. This is the one you'll be skipping after you chain 1. So this is the one we need to put our front post around. So I'm going to front post around this, chain 1, skip 1, and then single crochet in the last. And that's how we end out row 11. So as always for row 12, we need to single crochet back across and get ready for row 13, which will end the 10 row repeat when we're done with 13. And I will meet you back here. All right, so here we are about ready to start row 13, which is the last in our repeat rows for this pattern. Row 13 is very similar to row 3, but there is a small difference, so it does need to be noted that. All right, so to get started, we're going to single crochet in the first, as always. And then we're going to single crochet in each of the next 4. So right off you can tell that this is very much like row 3. Okay, and then it says to front post around the next single, which I can see is right here. And then we're going to chain 1, skip 1, front post around the next front post, chain 1, front post around the next front post, and then we're going to put a single in the next single. So I need to count my 5 skips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can see that it's right here. And that's the end of the repeat, just like row 3. The difference will be at the ending. So we placed 4 singles, we did our posting and chaining, and then we did another single. So sorry for the camera shake. All right, so now to repeat again, we're going to place a single in each of the next 4. And then we're going to front post around the next single, chain 1, skip 1, front post around the next front post, chain 1, front post around the next front post. That's also the main difference in between row 3 and 13. In 3 we were always looking for singles. Now we're actually able to work around post stitches. So I'm going to count my skipped 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and place my last single for the ending of the repeat. Now we have 9 stitches left, and so for the ending it says to front post around the next single. Oh, I'm sorry. 4 single crochets first. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Mention I was leaving the bloopers in because, yeah, gotta have something to laugh at. All right, then we're going to front post around this next single. chain 1, front post around the next front post, and then we're going to chain 1, skip the next single, and then single crochet in the last stitch. And that is going to finish out row 13 and the 10 row repeat for this pattern. So you will continue working rows 4 through 13 until you have 9 inches of your block, and it will hopefully end up looking similar to this. I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope this was a better take. I hope you could hear me a little better. I hope that there wasn't too much more other noise competing with my voice. But either way, let me know in the comments below if this was helpful or not. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.